Regular meeting of the Willington Board of Education to order. It's Tuesday, November 13th, 2018 at 7:03. We start with present to speak. The speakers will be recognized by the chairman, and if you would please identify yourself by your name and your address. We ask everyone to limit themselves to 5 minutes, and the total time will not exceed 20 minutes. So if there are people here who'd like to comment, please raise your hand and I'll pick you, and then you can tell me who you are. Lots of observers, but no speakers yet. You should know that we have a present to speak section at the end of the meeting as well. So if there's something that you hear today that you'd like to comment on, we welcome feedback from everyone, no matter your age or location in town. So, okay, moving on then. Yes.
On the agenda, on item number 12, not 12, 11, personnel matter.
Normally that would go into more
I think
detail.
under FLI rules and regulations that this is not sufficient. It has to be clarified just a little bit more.
It doesn't. I consulted the law book about it because you had asked me that, and I consulted it, and it says personnel matters is enough. Because the more you give away,
What was your source?
Connecticut school law book.
The point though is,
Most of the meetings that I've been to, the attorneys have said that it should be clarified.
I could show you, and that's why I referenced the legal piece under executive session too, because that's another one that's been asked of me. So I can show you the legal ruling on it.
okay. I believe the personnel matter is not something we're going to discuss tonight because the matter has changed. So we're not going.
It's not on the agenda? It's not on the agenda.
So it says right now personnel matter on the agenda, but it is not something we are going to discuss this evening because the matter has resolved itself. So shall we vote to take it off, or is it fine to just leave it the way it is for now? Okay, not hearing any calls either way. We will move on with the communications. Bill, any communications this morning? None. We are moving right through this agenda. Presentation. We have a presentation for this evening?
I think that was deleted according to Brenda.
Okay, that's right, that was in the other email. Okay, something else to take off the agenda.
That was deleted too.
That was deleted, and this was obviously printed before the deletion. Okay. It's me, moving on, number 5, Board of Education Chairman's Report. If you remember, we've discussed over the past few months the need to have an update on our policy to fill the, adjust the filling of board vacancies to allow the Board of Education to have more adequate time to do that process correctly. So while that's not something we're going to discuss at length tonight, I just wanted to call it to your attention that the policy committee is going to be looking at that and bringing back to the board a draft policy, and then we will discuss that. And the process would be that we would change our own policy, but it's likely going to require a recommendation to the Board of Selectmen to put out a town ordinance. If we're going to create a town ordinance to this effect, it has to go to town meeting. So this is a multiple month process to get to that point. So if you have strong feelings either way, or thoughts about this, communicate with one of the members on the policy board because they're going to be talking about it in the coming month. And those of you on the policy board, we need to schedule a meeting so we can talk about this in the next month. So.
No, you said you had a draft of this already?
No, we will have a draft for you next month at this meeting, so we'll get it to you in advance with the materials. Okay, moving on, superintendent reports. This is you.
All right. I thought so, but I thought he was going to say something. Holly McCarthy's retiring effective January 1, 2019. Holly's been with us for 11 years, and the search process is rolling. We are cranking right along. We have a site visit tomorrow for a candidate. Holly's done wonders for us, and big shoes to fill. So we're hoping that we're going to get a great candidate, and at this point we're moving along and it's looking good. So thanks to Holly for her time. She's retiring. I had promised you data on the magnet school survey, and this was about the number of students that were leaving the district. K to 8, it has increased, and we wanted to know why. I put out a survey to parents electronically. I only got one response back. And so I'm going to press a little bit from a different angle, so I'm going to push this off another month. I'm going to mail them with return envelopes inside, and I'm also going to personally call and not ask them the survey questions, but just request of them that they complete it so we have data on why. So I want to share that with you. The December 3rd meeting, so that is supposed to be a special meeting, and I just want to confirm that we're doing that. That's on our calendars. We haven't set that, but we need to have some agreement on that. That December 3rd special meeting kind of has twofold as far as the purpose goes. One is to approve administrators, and the reason why is the Pupil Services Director as well as the elementary principal. We're hoping to appoint that night because that will give them about 30 days if they are currently employed, which we expect that they are, that they have to tell their employer, and for a January 2nd start, they need to make sure they have enough time. And we're hoping that to have that meeting on December 3rd, that will give them enough time. So if you approve the December 3rd, I have full expectations that they will, December 4th, tell their employer. So is December 3rd good? The other second part of that reason for the meeting was to go through CIP items because it's pretty lengthy.
Can we have the list of those items before the meeting? Can you mail it to us?
Yeah, I'll give you all the items before.
What time would that be? What time?
It's a special meeting, so that's up to all of you. You could adjust.
Any time will work for me during the.
Do you have any special concern about the time?
We had talked about going a little bit later to give people who are coming home from commuting at work. So we couldn't start like right at 5 because
Oh, I
we're
was
still
thinking
working.
7.
So, but we had talked about maybe doing it a little earlier since it's not going to be a full meeting period.
Correct.
Would people prefer 6, 6:30, 7?
I don't care. Whatever.
Tracy, you're coming home.
I was one that requested it a little later, because
So is 7 better for you?
yeah, 6 is fine too, it's just whatever, that's dinner time. So 7 is fine, it's just,
6 or
Makes
7,
people
just
have
not
to
before
wait.
6. Okay. Do you have a preference?
No?
I will be in Florida.
It's very hard to get here from there. Okay.
So it's going to be 7 o'clock?
Yeah, 7 o'clock.
Is it going to be here in this room or?
Yeah, we'll do it here.
That'll be a special meeting?
Yes.
Anything else on the agenda or just that?
Not unless you bring something else up, but it'll just be to approve the administrative positions in the CIP projects. I'm hoping that the approval of the administrative positions, as long as everything goes well, and everything is checked out to that point, that's pretty snappy. It should be pretty fast. It's going to take some time to go through CIP items and understand administrators' recommendations for priorities.
Is that meeting open for public?
Oh yeah, definitely. And we'll post an agenda just like we do for this. Good? All right, moving along. So I brought up doing an open forum and just talking about forums in general outside of a board meeting with the purpose of getting feedback and having some dialogue. And I talked to, this was at the retreat, we talked about it briefly. And so I looked at what other boards have done. And if they've done a forum where it's superintendent and board, it's really been targeted budget, where they were getting feedback from the audience and there could be dialogue. We can't have it within our current bylaws because our policy says that it's public to speak and that's it. So we would have to adjust if we wanted to have an open forum, I believe. And it also goes along with filling vacancies, because to have the dialogue, it could be done in a forum. That was another example that I saw where it was the Board of Ed and the people that wanted to be on the board were basically being interviewed. And it was give and take. And so it matches the policy that we're trying to adjust. The other option is if you're just, and it depends on the purpose here. I have a particular purpose, but it depends on what you want. Another option is just to allow me to do an open forum where it's just conversation. It's, you've seen it where superintendents will do coffee in the morning. They say, hey, I'll have office hours from 4 to 8 on this day. Please stop by, have a conversation. A smart way to do it is you do an RSVP so you don't get a room full of 80 people and you can't talk to everyone.
One box of donuts and 80
Correct, correct. So my purpose for that would really be to get feedback, because I think it's important to hear from the townspeople and parents and staff members of budgetary items, or just, hey, this is what's going well, this is what we need to improve upon, because they only get 5 minutes if they come to a meeting. And my suggestion would be, for now, I could set a couple of those up at various times just to allow more people in, and then report out on it. But I wanted to share that if you do it as a board, that we probably would have to adjust our policy.
Now, when we do the budget workshops, we do relax those rules about public talking.
I was,
Because there was some back and forth when we had the budget workshops this year.
When there are workshops, there's often requests for information from people about, what does this look like? And so I think we extended the amount of time at the beginning during the budget meetings, but during the workshops, I think we had some conversation, but it wasn't a full forum multiple times. There's kind of a different setup and feel where in the case of a forum, we do almost no talking and all listening. So I think that maybe we should do a little research on finding another policy, and in the process, it's going to take a little while to update that. So that shouldn't slow you
we're
down.
not at the 9,000 anyway, so.
Yeah, so if you want to take a look and see what you can find on that, but don't wait.
Okay. Good? Okay. Herb, you had asked me last time about the school visits, and I had said this to the board, I don't think, that I was going to postpone them just because I had announced that we were going to do some site visits and schedule things, and then Holly's retirement papers came in, and I had 2 administrative searches to do. So I'm holding off until January on your site visits to come into the buildings. I'm looking at the end of January, and I'll have Brenda send out some dates. Hopefully by that point, we have 2 brand new administrators, and I'll have a solid team to move forward with. All right?
Great.
December 11th, the Finance Committee meeting, 6 p.m. We need to have a Finance meeting. You're on Finance. I'm not sure
I think
who else was on that,
it was Mary
if
Beth.
we adjust it,
We did not adjust.
because you're going to want to hear some budget conversation first.
We didn't do, we decided to think about committees.
We didn't
a
adjust,
little
so
bit,
the old
yeah.
ones still apply, but I don't know, I
Okay.
didn't know if you wanted to maintain it.
So the financial committee would be to discuss budget stuff?
Correct,
Okay.
ahead of time.
So did you have a time window that you were looking at?
No,
Sometime in December?
December 11th is our next board meeting. We've been doing
So
committee
before-
meetings beforehand. If that worked for people, if we're going to do policy that night, then we'd have to set another night. I'm open to that.
If you need somebody in finance, I'd be willing to, since I'm not in the policy.
I think I'm the only one on the finance committee right now.
Well, if you need 2, I would be interested too.
Okay.
But hear about first, so I'm just saying, if you need 2, I would be happy to be there.
Okay. If I'm correct, this is a question for you, Herb, if I'm correct, there can't be 4 of us, because if there are 4 of us, then it becomes a regular meeting, because that's
That's right,
important,
yeah.
correct? Okay, so, we'll let Kiara do it since she's not on policy,
Absolutely,
and, if you want to swap next year, you
Well,
can
no,
each
don't
take
worry
a
about
turn.
it, I'm just there.
Okay, so let's try, well, the policy committee will meet before the next meeting, so if we can do the finance meeting at a different point before the 11th,
Before the 11th?
before December 11th.
Do you want me to just have Brenda send out some dates? Does
Yeah,
that work?
yeah, we can't, I
Okay.
can't schedule it. right?
Yep.
So, Okay. Okay, other financial reports?
Financial reports, so onto the financial reports.
Oh, onto the financial reports, sorry.
So you have the financial report in front of you. I went back to 2017, we had a budget freezing process, but I looked just to compare, see where we were at. And we're still pretty comparable. The areas where we've spent more monies this year up to November compared to last year is in PD. So we've spent money on curriculum and staff development. There's 34.9% left there. Last year at this time it was 59%. We hadn't spent money last year because we were frozen. Most of the other accounts are pretty close. Last year at this time we had 18.9% of the budget left. This year we have 10.6 at this point. I don't think there's any surprises in here at this point in time.
Any questions?
On the operating maintenance, do we have an encumbered number of 166,000?
Yes.
Is that by contract or?
I will tell you if that's encumbered, it probably is because Donna's probably encumbered that for, there's probably a lot of salary in that.
That includes salary?
Is that something you want to know, what's in that 166 encumbered, Herbie?
Yeah, because that seems to be a rather large amount.
Yep, I can find out.
Encumbered, and I didn't know salary was included in the operating. Maybe it would be.
Yeah, that's how Jackie, this is something you're going to hear from me eventually. Jackie, when she did the budget programs, put pieces of people in certain programs. So if someone was part of center school, but also did something for maintenance, pieces of their salary could be in different parts of the budget. It could be program 1 and program 8. You could add, there's various spots where she was trying to do that to see what the cost of the school, what it costs to run the school. You'll see that in administrative assistants too, where a portion of an administrative assistant's salary will be in transportation, but also in the school, because part of what they do is they work on transportation, but they also work in the school. So,
If you could make sure when
So-
we do get to the budget that we have the detail
That's
of
clear.
which pieces of which
Yeah.
people.
I want that, I
Yeah.
want it, so,
Okay,
yes.
well,
I
we'd
will
like
have
to see that.
That's
too.
why I ask questions.
I
Okay.
have one more little question I'd like to ask in relation, in regard to that, like in the CES Elementary, we have $1 million, 400,000. That
Salary.
includes the salaries of the staff, but also could include the salary of a custodian or secretary or
Correct.
another person. So it's not strictly professional staff.
Correct. Paraprofessionals, yes.
Other questions? Okay. Seeing none, we'll move on to committee reports. The subcommittee on student clubs and extracurricular activities. Do you want to report out on that?
So we had a joint meeting, I don't want to leave anybody out. Library board was here, rec department with Maureen, Board of Ed,
Jen?
Jen from Youth and Family Social Services, who am I missing? Middle school. We had a really good conversation about clubs and the offerings that we have and how we've been kind of separate. And we're trying to look at what we can do to offer some joint ventures, to offer more clubs. Can we bus to the library? How can we provide more clubs and be connected? Can there be something off-site that we would bus to in town that turns into a rec program? We talked about grants. We're just trying to look at the after-school programs that are offered for our students and really advance where they're at and take an approach that's more collaborative. And so we are just trying to provide more for our students and right after school. We had some conversations about transportation and how the cost of transportation really limits the number of clubs. If we have $10,000, about $5,000 of that is for transportation. If we eliminate the transportation, we probably also eliminate the opportunities for some of our students that couldn't get a ride home. So we're aware of that. We're just trying to find creative ways to provide more, to provide maybe some transportation. Maybe not all clubs have transportation, but it's something that this will be an ongoing conversation, and just trying to provide more for our students. Leave anything out?
No, I think that was pretty comprehensive. It's ongoing, the committee's going to have future discussions, so we don't have another date scheduled.
When did we have
Correct.
this meeting? When did you have this meeting? This
I couldn't tell
committee
you
with
the
all the
date.
boards?
I don't know, Brenda invited you, you couldn't go.
No, I never got the invitation.
It was on the 29th of October.
I never got that information about the meeting.
Okay, I'm sorry,
So
because you were the
you
person
guys-
who had requested that we had it. We were
Yeah.
surprised you weren't there.
I
I thought it was
wasn't
a schedule conflict. Okay.
Did I say I was going? Because I don't remember it either.
I don't
don't
think we got
think
any
so.
emails about that meeting. Was anybody from the Board of Education
I
at
was
the
there.
meeting?
I was
And somebody else? I think none
You
of
weren't
us.
not on there.
Steph was there.
Yeah, Steph was there. we
I
had 2 or 3
I did
board
not
members.
get any emails about that meeting.
I'll find out.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
Sorry
okay.
about that.
No, it's okay, I just for future, so if we can just make sure. And my question regarding this particular situation, are we gonna fix that email thing? So we could always go and check? Because, like, email, which is a town
There's a
email?
plan for that, right?
I do have a plan, and I'm gonna go back, you were at the retreat. One of the things I shared at the retreat, the importance of communication on a board where you have busy people. It can't be your personal cell phone, I think it makes it really hard for communication. I think someone said they had 4 email addresses. We have to provide you with some piece of technology so that you have, when I send you an email or Brenda sends you an email, that you're getting it, and then if you have a problem with that piece of technology, a Chromebook, whatever it is, that we can fix it for you. We really shouldn't be touching your personal cell phone.
But I personally would not mind getting a call on my number as long as I'm notified.
I hear you say that, and I will tell you that I think from the standpoint of the number of phone calls that I could make in a day, or Brenda could make in a day, you'd rather have us send something quick where I can connect out to 7 people and get it out quickly instead of having us call every time. If it's something critical, I'll always call. I will always call. But I'm trying to make us more efficient. And I've heard loud and clear, and I hope you support it in the budget, that there's a need for you to have some piece of technology that's consistent that you all can get emails on. And that you're not using your personal emails, because it's not the way you run an efficient board.
And it's not just you, it's happened with all of us in different ways, either problems with the email or the password expires, or any number of issues.
But
So-
even if we'll fix how it worked before, at least we know we can go and check if nothing.
This could be a much bigger conversation, it's not on the agenda for now, so
okay.
I hear you, that it's something we need to fix, and
It's one of my
Phil
goals.
has it on his to-do list,
I
for
do.
sure.
So do you have
So-
any other meetings scheduled for the clubs?
No, we did not.
Not yet.
We did
No,
not.
that's okay.
Not yet.
So I would end up with a phone, not a tablet. my iPad, my computer, my radios, everything else. I mean, the question I have though is, in regard to the tablet, if and when the board, if we approve it, there's financial costs involved in it. But also, what do we do with hard copies? Would we be able to print material?
We would still print stuff. We would still print papers for meetings. I wouldn't make that jump right
No,
away.
you would print, but I'm saying at home, we wouldn't have the ability to print on our own printer.
Sure.
If we're going to move towards something, we will have a full discsion about what we need to do. This isn't it's not on the agenda, so.
I know it, but you're talking about it, and I think I should be entitled
And
to talk and express
I
a
agree,
question.
I agree, and I'm just
something
saying
like
that's
I
not
don't wanna
something
be
we can
shut off.
answer. I know, but
Okay.
it's not an answer we can provide right now, because it probably is more
I don't
technical
know,
than
Mr.
me.
Stevens clarified it for me pretty.
Okay.
We'll have a plan.
Yeah.
It's only fair though, since I just cut off Elena about the technology, to have you ask a technology question as a follow-up
You're just
felt
doing- Just
unfair.
doing your job.
So I'm doing my job to move us along,
Mhm.
and we are making remarkable time considering that it's not even 7:30 yet. So, nothing else about clubs or extracurricular
Yeah,
activities,
we
okay.
can have the subcommittee.
Moving on to new business, we have 2 sets of minutes to look at. One from our regular board meeting and one from the special meeting that we held on October 30th. It was our retreat. Do I have a motion
I
for
move
the,
that we approve the minutes of October 9th.
thank you, is there a second?
I second.
Elena, thank you. Any comments or questions about that set of minutes? Okay. Seeing none, are we ready for a vote? Okay. All those in favor of approving the minutes of October 9th, 2018 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any abstentions? Kiara? Any nay? Nope, okay, motion passes. Do we have a motion for the October 30th meeting, the special meeting on the 30th?
I move that we approve the minutes from the special meeting on October 30th.
Thank you, is there a second? Tracy seconds, okay. These are pretty straightforward and brief, so I can't imagine
What
there would be
special meetings are
questions
supposed to
about
be, I
it,
guess.
right? Are there any questions or comments? No? All those in favor of approving the minutes from October 30th signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Abstentions?
Aye.
Elena? Okay, motion passes. Moving on to C, review of the calendar, which is also in your handouts.
Yeah, and you
Multiple
should
ones.
have a new one with today's date on it, because when I went through this again, I found a couple errors, and so I asked Brenda to
No, not the one
print it
that,
for
not
you.
the one that says attachment 4 in the upper corner, the other one.
So find the one that
Says
says
draft of
draft
1113 in
1113.
red, right near the top.
And I'll share, this is, I want to be very clear, this is a draft. I have not gone too wild with this. We had a regional superintendent's meeting. EastCon kind of shares their thoughts on a calendar. Then I met with Ashford, Columbia, Mansfield, Region 19. We had a conversation about a similar calendar, and we agreed tentatively on some of the concepts that are in here, and I wanted to share some of these. So the first thing that you would see on here that's different, there are 3 staff development days on this proposed calendar at the beginning of the school year. You see SD, SD, SD. This year we have 2, and I will tell you what happens is the teachers have a half-day setup, they have convocation, and they have meet and greet, and there's not a lot of time set for professional development now in the beginning of the year calendar. And so we all agreed that would make sense to do that, and I say we, meaning the superintendents. What I will also say that allows you to do is if we want to plan something together, if we want to have a really expensive speaker come in and you share the cost across 4 or 5 districts, it's well worth it. You have to have the same days to be able to do that though. And so if we wanted to have someone, you know, a high flyer for Readers and Writers Workshop or Math Workshop or somebody come in, you have to share those days. So that was one of the thoughts behind the 3, and I'll go through all these and you can ask questions. The 3 staff development days in the beginning. The next adjustment I wanted to share is Veterans Day. This calendar, we're proposing that we go to school on Veterans Day. I will tell you that I right now think that students have no real concept of what Veterans Day is, and it's just a vacation day for them. I would prefer to go to school, have students go to school on Veterans Day, and we would be required by the state to do a program. The middle school, I went to the middle school program last week, and it was phenomenal. It was student-driven. Tracy was there. They ran the show. The teachers were off the sides.
You mean what means Hall?
At Hall School.
Oh,
So they set, this is next year's calendar, we would go to school actually on Veterans Day.
right, and this year I thought they didn't.
They didn't go to school, but they ran a program on
But they
Friday.
ran a program.
And
Oh, Friday,
they
okay.
invited in
I was gonna say
veterans,
they didn't.
the students through their advisory block all did something different. Some wrote letters to the veterans thanking them, some wrote poems, they made posters. It was really powerful. My father, who's an ex-Marine, was invited. He's very pro-veteran, I will say. And he walked out and he was really, really impressed. Not only with the program itself, just how the students handled themselves. It was truly, I was super proud to be there and watch the students and how they responded to the veterans. It was just really well done. Student driven. It's a requirement that if you go to school on Veterans Day, that you run a program. So center school would have to run a similar developmentally appropriate program. It's not all day long, it can be an hour, but it's definitely meaningful.
Yeah, in Vernon, where I teach, we've been going to school in the last few years, and there is one program for 5th and 4th graders. Some veterans in town come, and one is an employee of the Vernon School, but every class, for the most part, invites families of the kids to come, just very informally. And I had 2, and they converse with the students for more than half an hour each. And this is where we're all sitting on the rug and asking questions and listening, fascinated about all these stories. So it is really
It's powerful. They actually gave each, and the veterans didn't know they were getting this, each veteran got a question that they had to stand up and respond to the full auditorium. And it was great. The kids, just the questions, the meaningful questions they asked, it was really, really well done. So that's a change on this. It's also a change from the standpoint of, we've never really liked November because it's always been broken up between Veterans Day, you get the conferences in there, you get Thanksgiving in there. If you look at that, that's a pretty solid month when you take that out. Another change that's on there is in February. You have SD on yours. She missed that one. So the 18th actually should be a V. And we had a lengthy conversation about this. It should be a vacation day on February 18th. The other superintendents put that in because they had removed that week-long February vacation years ago. But what they did was they leave in one day, so you get the professional development on the 14th. You get the holiday on the Monday and the vacation day on Tuesday. So families can still go away. We still have professional development. And then if you have a terrible January with snow days, it's a day you can recover if you need to. So I apologize, the 18th should be a V for vacation day. And then the last note that's on here is something that I've seen in other school calendars, and we ran into it this past year, is that if you look at June, in the center column here, on the bottom on the dates, it says 12 to 18, days reserved as makeup days if needed due to weather-related closings. I think it's important to put that on the calendar because people plan on leaving on the 12th The next thing you know, you have a staff member booking a vacation, or you have a family booking a vacation. And then if you have 10 snow days, they're missing a lot of school. And so we're looking a way to put those days on the calendar in a way to let families know that this may not be the last day of school.
I have a question about that. So what if you have, so are you going to, this is only how many days is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
We could technically put to 28 if we wanted to.
So you
that would add
mean,
11 days.
Because if you have 7 or 8 snow days, which is not unheard of,
Correct.
you would still push it to the 19th and the 24th, right? Or you're gonna start taking from April vacation?
That's a board decision, and so, you could decide, in the past, we've gone from 182 days to 180 student days. That's gotten students out earlier. You could look at taking away April vacation, if it's early enough and you give people enough notice, you could do that. You could look at taking away February. I think the point of that comment is to let people know, school potentially could go to the end of June. Legally required if we have enough snow days.
But I wonder if it's misleading though to just write 12 to 18.
Could be.
I almost wouldn't mark the last day of school unless it clearly says, tentative last day of school if no snow days are required, or something that makes it really spelled out, because to have to go further down and say, oh, you mean snow days are on top of that? So it's never gonna be the 11th, to make it more explicit.
They
So,
actually have, I think it's a Mansfield's calendar, they actually put a snowflake over the top of each of the dates.
There you go.
It's
That's
pretty
a
clear.
visual use.
so why it would be only to the 18? Just,
It
It
wouldn't
was
be,
just to be an example for you. We could
Just an
extend it
I
further
was just
out.
wondering because I
But-
don't want people to think, okay, so the 19th I can make for vacation.
Correct.
he doesn't mean, you don't mean from June 12th to the 18th, do you? Is that what you meant? Was that up to those days?
This was meant to be a conversation starter, to find a way to identify, to let families and staff know, you really shouldn't be booking a vacation for June 15th.
I read it
Because
thinking
you
you
might be
thought
in
that it was
school.
gonna be a really bad winter and you were reserving up to 18 snow days.
I hope not.
The other thing I
Okay.
think, and this is from my personal perspective,
Yeah,
I think that would be good for teachers to know that they can't leave the last few days of school. The thing is with kids and parents, I don't know how much warning you can give them if they want to go on vacation usually. At that point, they're
They
just
can.
out.
they can. And with the attendance policy, they just have to use caution. And the purpose of, same thing if you go back to the February vacation, we're trying to avoid students taking vacations where, they're missing 5 days of school. We're trying to avoid those. We don't have a problem with it, but we've had enough instances where we want to make sure we let people know. This is no different. I haven't had a problem with staff not being in school if we have a lot of snow days. I'm just trying to create some awareness around that. It's really a good thing for everybody on staff to know that we could go to school till June 28th. Please don't book it.
Legally, now even short of the 18 days, I was misreading there, legally, we have to finish by the 28th. You cannot go to school into July
Correct.
on state law. There have been years where some school districts have come up with creative ways to make that work. But I think that we can look at other ways to make this a little bit more clear. But is there, other than the clarification about the end of the school year, making that clear for snow days, are there other questions or concerns about the
Well,
calendar?
if you want to do that, maybe you can say the 12th through the 26th, maybe. I don't know, the 18th kind of makes me think, oh, okay, so on the 19th I can book my.
Yeah, we were just doing a week. We really could send out a notice today
Because
when we
you
send out the
can think,
calendar.
okay, we'll only go, if you would get so many snow days, then we'll do 180 days. I have no problem with that, because at that point, kids are not doing
It's
much
the end of
work.
June.
yeah, I would definitely prefer to go with 180 days than to take days of April vacation. I think it's important they're tired, they need rest in April.
Especially since lunch was zero.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
Zero's
Yeah.
like the lunch.
But so let's say, okay, the 12th to the 26th.
We used to have a PD in March, PD day in March, and that's what's now in front of, part of the year.
You know, 10 days.
Yeah.
Okay, now this is not our final
No, no,
look
this
at
is
this. We're
first
gonna have-
conversation, I wanted
Um,
to share some of the thoughts. Do you have any questions about any of the other things that you see on there?
Yeah, I have a question.
Yeah.
Your explanation of what you did in the schools on Veterans Day is commendable. But I want to call your attention to the fact that we have, on the calendar, we have Labor Day, we have Columbus Day, Thanksgiving, New Year's Day, President's Day, Good Friday, and Memorial Day. And you've targeted the Veterans Day to delete it, you know.
Correct.
And, I mean, we could have taken Labor Day. Labor Day, you know, it doesn't mean anything to kids either for that matter.
Yeah.
Probably not as much as a Veterans Day.
I would have to go back.
And Veterans Day goes back to, you know, the really beginning of the Republic, the battles at, you know, Concord and Lexington, Civil War, Korea, and
Veterans
Vietnam,
Day?
World War.
Veterans Day will be only from World War I on, not the Revolutionary one.
We have veterans from all right from the beginning, and they fought for the same thing that the
Right.
veterans during World War I and World War II did.
Right, but that we already
You know, for
celebrated on
freedom
July
and
4th.
things of that kind. But it seemed to me that we could have targeted one of the other days just as significantly, you know.
I don't know if
I'm
we
kind of
can.
saying this because I am a veteran of,
Yeah.
you know, World War II, and, you know, veterans, some of them go through a lot of problems. And-
Yeah.
And we honor them, you know, on this particular day. Some of them are in dire straits, you know, and just to arbitrarily cut them out of our calendar and you know, we did expose kids, you know, to some of the attributes of this particular day, but it is a very significant day in the life
I don't disagree.
of not only the veterans, but the whole country, really.
Yeah.
And these veterans did fight for freedom, you know.
I don't know what programs happen in schools if you don't do it on those days. I think it was great that the middle school did a program that day, and I think that's
Yeah, I think that's
one of the reasons why to go to school. The other reason, Herb, that we looked at that day is because legally, there's only a few of those holidays that you're allowed to go to school on, but you have to do a program. Veterans Day is one of them. But you can't just say, hey, we're gonna go to school on Veterans Day and not do a program. You must do a program. So I can look at what other dates you can go to school on, but I know that one is one, and we would have to be very thoughtful about what we put out to the public, about why we were going to school on Veterans Day and what we were, the programs we were gonna provide for students, and let them know that that's a requirement. My fear is that if you, and we have students in the audience tonight, but I don't know what families are gonna do on their own on a vacation day, because that's how they'll see it. I'd rather bring students in and have the opportunity to educate them on the importance of that day. And that was the thinking of why we looked at that.
Well, that's true in all of the days that get out. I mean-
Right, but I don't know that we don't have the flexibility in all those other days.
The other thing is, many businesses go to work that day. I think it's not a national holiday, it's, I know my husband always works in business on that day. So a lot of kids are just going to daycare that day, or,
So they don't celebrate Veterans Day.
right, exactly. But I think, and her, we'd love to have you come be honored on that day, you know?
I agree, I mean,
Wonderful.
the more people that, what was real for students that day was that it was real people in front of them. It wasn't just talking about someone, a veteran that they didn't know. It was family members, grandchildren brought them flowers. It was, moms and dads. It was really powerful, and I think the more the student body sees that in a developmentally appropriate way, they walked away knowing what Veterans Day was all about. The program that they and I should have the middle school students come and do a presentation on this, because, I mean, you could speak to this, Tracy. I thought it was really well done.
It was very touching, and it was very, very thoughtful what the students came up with as a way to thank. It was everything from a letter that was written to kids making T-shirts that said thanks veterans, and it went across their shirts with 2 letters on each thing, and then some read poems and sang songs, and the veterans left with jars of lifesavers because they had written a poem that they were the lifesavers, and just very thoughtful and very well done. And it was the kids. The kids were the MCs, and they were the ones presenting the whole thing, and they really owned the program.
They did.
Now, what kind of, who was there in attendance besides the veterans who were invited?
So they put out in the digital backpack to family members that you could bring. If you had any family members that were veterans or neighbors that you could bring them to the ceremony. They requested that they RSVP. And so they had a small number of veterans there, but it was enough that it was powerful.
But as far as students, other students and other members of the public, of the school community, who else was there?
It was all the students in the school.
Every student in the middle school was there.
So all the students, even though it was not a school day?
It was on a school day, it was on a Friday.
This was on a school
Oh,
day.
that was
The
on
Veterans
Friday,
Day,
I'm
right.
sorry.
That's
It's
okay.
I keep thinking it was-
Because he's proposing that next time it'd be on Veterans Day.
It was
It's a little
on
And they
bit-
would
that
run
was
that
on
program
Friday,
on that day is what we proposed.
So you're doing a little more research on that? or-
Yeah, I'll look at the holidays because I know there's, it's a law. There's certain days you're not supposed to go to school, and there's certain days that you're allowed to go to school as long as you run a program. So I will find out.
Kira, did you?
I was thinking Columbus Day is the only other one that comes to mind.
It came up at the regional superintendent's meeting, we talked about it.
'Cause
Well,
I don't know about
I think the fact that we've had this discussion here, it's gonna be on the video, on the minutes, we will have people from the community contacting us if they have questions. Maybe people from the audience might have an opinion to give to us at the end during our board comments, public to speak time. But since we are not finalizing the calendar
No.
tonight, it would be great if we could seek out additional opinions about this and hear from the community about their preferences.
Can I just share one other thing too about this, sorry? One of the Veterans Day is actually in one of the contracts as well. And I contacted that union just to let them know that we were gonna be talking about it. It wasn't a set decision, because it's a day that's in their contract that they're not supposed to work. And we happen to be coming up on negotiations with that group. So that would have to be something we'd have to negotiate with that group around.
Okay. Tracy?
One thing to follow up on what you just said, because in Coventry last year, I believe it was in our contract for paras, and it was a floating holiday, and then this year, it was not.
Yeah.
So it might be a way, I don't know anything about
That's-
negotiations for that, but
Yeah,
that was how
that's
they
what
did
you
it.
would look at doing, yeah.
And then also just a visual, I like the idea, maybe it doesn't have to be snowflakes, but some kind of a visual that's not a date, or it's not circled or like anything else here that says it's a flag to families when they look at this calendar.
Yeah. I like the visual of it. That's-
Yeah.
That is.
Okay, so we will come back to this again at a future meeting. Moving on then to dates for the budget process.
So our regular scheduled meeting, is that right, is April 9th? Yes.
Not April, we're talking about January,
What are we on?
the budget meetings.
Oh, that's on before this one, sorry.
Sorry.
I skipped ahead.
Yep.
Yep,
So it's attachment 5. Our regular meeting would be on Tuesday the 8th. Is that right?
Yes, and the Board of Finance, I believe, is finalizing their calendar Thursday night. But Donna basically does a lot of their calendar for them, and I work with her on this, so. If these dates work, it would work within, I believe, what is gonna be their calendar.
So what you're proposing here are 3 additional dates to go over the different programs within the budget. So not on the day of our regular board meeting, which would be Tuesday, January 8th, but Wednesday the 9th for Center Hall and Transportation, Wednesday the 16th for special education and related services, health services, curriculum and staff development, utilities, system-wide support and fringe benefits and substitutes. And then the 23rd, all of these at 6 p.m. Would be operations and maintenance capital improvement requests.
Will those be on 7 o'clock in the evening?
6.
I think we've been doing, we did 6 last year, but I just put 6 on as a draft. You can,
How long did we go late on any of those days?
most of them were under 2 hours.
The 23rd is a Wednesday, so do you mean the Wednesday the 23rd or Thursday the 24th?
Oh, that's right. No, it's a Wednesday.
Let's see if we put reservations in.
Brenda had told us Wednesday, because I have it on my calendar on Wednesday the 23rd. Unless
Now,
she-
if we meet on the 9th,
Mhm.
would we have copies of the budgets for center school, high school, so forth, to review a few days before the meeting?
On the 9th, you mean?
Yeah, on the 9th. Are we going to get copies of the budget on that,
It's a good question. What did Jackie?
at that meeting?
I think we got them the night of the first one, but then we had time to ask questions again at the next one. It wasn't like we voted on those nights to move on.
Well, the thing is, if you get it that evening, you really, and Mr. Stevens will review it with us. You still don't have an opportunity to look it over beforehand. Maybe it doesn't make that much difference, really.
I think the way we've done it, if I'm going back now to when David Harding was superintendent, I think he did a presentation where we didn't ask any questions. He gave us the copy and went over the highlights, and then we came back and discussed it, as opposed to going through a program by program, still having the budget organized by programs, but I'm just not sure if we need 3 full nights meetings
That's
for
not
the
how it's set up here,
presentation.
though.
I know, that's what I'm saying, is that maybe one way to do that would be to have 2 nights of presentation and then,
Well, that's what it
Questions?
says. Says follow-up information or request from previous reviews on Wednesday
right,
the
I'm just
23rd.
clarifying whether we would have questions and discussion about the programs on those nights, and then additional questions that might come back on the night of the 23rd, or if we wanted, if we wanted to look at it and digest it, and then,
Well, that February 6th date, is that what that's for?
Right. You could either go 4 nights, 3 nights of programs, and then the follow-up
All
and
we're going to review.
determination,
But,
Or you could do
I
3
mean,
nights.
as long as it doesn't get out of hand, I think questions can be asked while they present it, I mean,
Oh, yeah.
right?
so
'Cause
maybe.
I don't wanna make it so rigid that we can't ask
So
any questions.
here's a suggestion, how about at the meetings where we're discussing the programs, we ask questions, and then at the beginning of the next one, before we get started on the 16th with program 3, we have time for any additional questions that have come up. Then we go through the ones that are on the agenda for those. Similarly, at the beginning of the 23rd, we have questions for any additional questions before we go on. We have time for additional questions, because remember, sometimes it's not just questions, it's about prioritization of which ones might be more important to look at the end of the 23rd. And we reserve the 6th, because we're at some point going to have to vote on all of these and come to a conclusion. And I think we should save the 6th for that, because we're not going to be voting on the first 3 nights. Those are really for presentations. I don't want to vote on the night of the 23rd if we're getting a presentation and asking questions about those 2 sections that night.
You have the BOE budget adoption of public meeting on February 12th.
Right, on February 12th.
Is that on here and I missed it? Oh, further
It's
down.
at the bottom.
on,
Further
yeah,
down,
because those
sorry.
are just the workshops, but I mean,
So the 6th would only be necessary if we had
Well, if we don't
additional
agree,
questions or
right.
couldn't agree.
Because once we get to the adoption, we should all pretty much in agreement on what to do, right?
Because is February 12th our regular meeting in February? Is that a Tuesday? Does anybody have their calendar open?
I think it is. Required
So if
that.
that's at our
Yeah.
regular meeting, okay. So then the 6th would be to iron out final questions.
Mhm.
Would that work, having
Is
the
that when we
questions?
vote on it, or we vote?
Not on the 6th,
We're
on
gonna
the
be
12th.
voting on
Well,
the 12th.
And I think we should talk about how we're gonna vote. We had some situation when we kind of voted too fast and couldn't back up.
One of the things I hope to look at the CABE conference on Friday is to learn more from some of our colleagues about the best practices for moving through that efficiently, because it doesn't make sense to vote on some sections before others, and yet we were trying to get some consensus section by section. And I think that was a little confusing last time, so to
Yeah.
find a way that's clear. So for those of us who are going to the conference, if that would be something to be paying close attention to in any of the workshops you attend, or from some of our colleagues to ask questions about the best way to do that.
depending on how flexible you are too, we have to put out an agenda. So you technically could put every program on one night, or on every night if you wanted to. And if people start to get tired, I mean, the first night, you could go through 5 programs if you wanted to. If everyone was feeling good, hey, keep going, we're good, I'll be prepared for that.
What this allowed us to do was to focus, to have people who are interested in only one section of the budget to come to that night, so that if you really cared just about special education, you wouldn't have to come and sit through everything on the 9th, you could come on the 16th.
Yeah, I agree.
If you cared just about the building, you could come only on the 23rd. So
And
that
I-
was in part in response to our audience's
That's true,
participation.
that's a good point.
Mhm.
And I think that first 3 are the biggest ones, right? That's why.
Yeah, that's why they would take up all of that time. Okay, so the question, Herb, that you had raised though was the 6 o'clock start versus the 7 o'clock start.
Yeah, I'm flexible, it all depends on who's working.
The 6 o'clock is, I think, the earliest we can start,
6 o'clock.
but given the fact that it'll have been dark for 2 hours already by then, it's not such a bad thing to, okay. So if people are okay with the 6 o'clock start, and notice that there are different locations, some of them are at the town office building in this room, and some of them are at the center school library. And then, of course, we could always, if we felt that we were gonna have a very large audience, we could always move it back to the center school gymnasium if the library weren't gonna be big enough. Okay, so is this something we have to confirm at this point? Probably yes. So is there?
Well, as long as you're okay with the dates that are on there and you hold those in your calendar, Thursday night, Board of Finance, they commit to this, then if you are happy with this, then we should take the word draft off of this.
Okay,
The only other thing that's on here that you need to look at is that April 9th, and I think it's highlighted in yellow, Board of Finance Budget Appropriation Meeting, that's the same night as our regular Board of Ed meeting, and you really should not do that. You should move your April 9th board meeting, and they did not schedule that intentionally the same night as our board meeting. It's statutory. They just work the calendar backwards by, you have to have so many days before the
so that's not the
referendum.
appropriation meeting, that's the budget hearing, is that right?
I'm
Or
sorry,
that's
the
what
budget
that-
hearing, my
Right,
fault,
okay.
yes.
So the budget hearing is at the Board of Finance meeting?
Mhm.
Yeah, and that's the
Special meeting.
same night as our
That's
Board
the,
of Ed
that's
meeting.
the public hearing where they open to the public to
Why
have
don't they
those
do it on a
questions.
Tuesday? You said it's for,
It's just, they know where the end date is, and it's
Okay, so
based
they
upon the number of days, and they work backwards, and it fell on the same day as our board
It has to
meeting.
happen 2 weeks before the town meeting has to come 2 weeks before the referendum, so they kind of work back from the date of the referendum.
So I would propose our board meeting on the 16th.
Have we already voted on the 2019 meeting dates? Did we set
Yeah,
that
it's
date?
for the year, we set
We
it for
did
the
set
year,
this
we
one
have to
already.
adjust the
Okay.
calendar.
So we could just adjust that
That
and
would
make
be
a special meeting.
after the hearing.
Correct.
You wouldn't want a meeting before the hearing,
I think by that point, we're gonna,
pretty well set.
I hope so.
We will have already passed our budget, and we won't have to have made our adjustments at that point yet, would we?
What if it
No,
comes
because
back
we have
to
to
us?
wait, right. So,
I mean, I'm hoping that around March 14th, we will get some feedback.
the question then is only whether we move our April date to Monday or Wednesday of that week. So if we wanted to do Wednesday, April 10th.
Or you could do it the off week because there's no meetings that week, 16th.
The 16th is vacation, oh, no, that's the 19th.
So by that time, our budget will be in the hands of the Board of Finance, basically.
Correct.
Okay. Do we know which week April vacation week is this year? Do you have that on your calendar?
It is yes.
That's Easter week, right?
This has been the meeting about
16th.
setting dates, by far
15th
the
to
most
the
riveting topic, right?
15th to the 18th.
15th to the 18th, so we
That's
should
the
not make, we
vacation.
shouldn't make our meeting a week later, we should make it maybe Wednesday, April 10th. Do we have anybody with any concerns about moving it to the next night, Wednesday, April 10th?
That's fine.
And that would be your regular meeting.
And I can tell you I am in Chicago. Can we make it the 11th? You had problems on Tuesdays and
No,
Thursdays now,
I-
is that a problem in the spring too?
No, I don't think so, but whatever.
So you're saying
Yes.
Wednesday?
No, Thursday, April 11th.
Thursdays are fine for me.
Okay.
It's at 7 o'clock, I'm fine.
Thursday, April 11th at 11th.
So
At
We
7.
have we, I can't remember, have we done a schedule for next year?
We voted on that,
already, right?
I think last
So
month.
we have to make
So
a
it would be a
change to
special
that?
meeting. We would cancel our regular scheduled meeting. We would have a special meeting since those are already published and
Alright.
approved. And it just means that we would have to have a set agenda that we can't vary from. So we would, when we set the agenda.
Because it's a special.
Because it's a special, exactly. Right. Okay, did we have clarification about the 23rd versus the 24th? Right, didn't somebody just raise
it
that?
is Wednesday, January 23rd.
So it is Wednesday, not Thursday.
That's January.
Wednesday, January.
So it's 3
23rd.
Wednesdays in a row.
Same date, just Thursday, so.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so we have consensus on those dates, so you'll pass that along. Moving on then to item 10 on our agenda is present to speak, which means we are at the end of the public portion of our agenda. So for those of you who have been here and listened to us go through our calendars ad nauseum for all of the possible days we might have future meetings, there was a couple of items of substance that you might want to comment on. We'd love to hear from you. Just raise your hand and give us your name and your address. In the back row, Mr. You always have a comment for us?
I would love to make a comment.
Please do.
Mike Choi, Hall Memorial School teacher. Just real quick, our first Success Assembly of the year is coming up the the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. I believe it's going to start at 8 o'clock in the morning. So if anybody can attend, that would be great. We just closed our first quarter of the year and grades came out. So conferences are coming up and this school year is starting off pretty well.
And the winter concerts are Wednesday, December 12th and December, I'm not gonna say Wednesday, December 12th and December 13th. I don't know what that is.
So, when is it, you said?
December 12th is 5th and 6th grade, and December 13th is 7th and 8th.
Wednesday and
Sorry,
Thursday.
that was my addition to Mike's public.
I appreciate the addition.
Friendly amendment.
And what time are classes usually?
I don't have it on the calendar yet, usually 7.
Okay.
The 12th and the 13th.
I'll send it out in an email to you.
2 days, not twice.
Okay, also,
Mike Foster, Birch Meadow, 19. Actually didn't come here to make any comments until we brought up Veterans Day. I am a Iraqi war vet, and I fully support the concept of going to school on Veterans Day and having the children have a face to what everybody's talking about with the Veterans Day. You know, they see all the sales, Veterans Day sale. That's it's become commercialized and it's offensive. So, I think it's a good thing. I mean, these students are all 14, 15, they were born right after the beginning of the Iraqi War. And the students at Hall and Center much after, so they don't really have a concept, except for seeing, maybe hearing things about overseas someplace, and so I think it's a good idea. It certainly puts, because they're gonna, like she said, that, most likely they're gonna be in daycare or sitting at home watching video games or playing video games, etc. And I think it's a good thing. Put a little perspective into their lives.
Thank you, sir. Other comments?
Hi, I'm Ethan Parcell. My address is 10 Depot Road. And I was wondering why we wouldn't have school on Monday, because you guys had the presentation on Friday about Veterans Day, right? Where the veterans came in. So, if you already had that, why would it not be on Monday? Wait, no. Why would it be on Monday when you could have the day off, even though you're already learning about it on a Friday?
So since we were talking about our calendar for next year, it would move from year to year, depending upon what day it is. It's typically the 12th, correct? So, the 11th, right. So I think that every year we set the calendar and we would have to look to see on exactly which day it would fall, which day it's celebrated.
But you wouldn't have presentation the day before
You'd have
if you would go to school on Monday.
Right, so if
You would
know
have
that
it
day-
on Monday. It was this year Friday presentation.
Because.
But day
because
off was
they-
on Monday. So it's just only this year Friday presentation.
Okay.
So you would celebrate it on the
Yeah.
right day, when the whole country celebrates Veterans Day.
A good question. Thank you for asking. It's very important.
And his school board of education will have to make the same decision.
Other questions? Okay, well, thank you all very much. We love having people in the audience at Board of Education meetings because these are your public schools and we depend on your input. So I hope to hear more people's comments about our calendar over the course of the next months as we're starting to set this because it matters a lot. I know there are certainly people who have strong opinions and we would hope to hear from folks, whether by email or in person, as we're starting to put the calendar together. So with that, the board is going to move into executive session with this.
Before you do that,
Okay,
the December 3rd meeting, is that
Yes.
still on?
yes, we talked about that under number 6
Yeah.
for the special meeting. And we said we would start at 7 PM. Is that here in this building?
Yes.
Yes, so that would be here in this building for December 3rd for a special meeting with two purposes, to approve the administrative positions and to discuss the capital improvement project budget items.
Okay.
I'll let you know if it's not, if someone's in the meeting room already, I'll let you know, and it'll be on the agenda.
So double
I
check your
will
email
clarify that
before the
specifically.
3rd for sure, just in case somebody's already booked this or did not know that. Okay. So now that we're done with present to speak, the board is going to go into executive session, which means that we will not have the public present during that time. If someone would like to make a motion to move into executive session and invite the superintendent to join us.
Yeah, I'll move that we go into executive session and invite the superintendent, and we're going to discuss school security measures.
Thank you. Herb, do we have a second?
A second.
Thank you, Kiara. All those in favor of going into executive session and inviting the superintendent to join us to discuss school security measures signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Passes unanimously. So, thank you all very much for attending today, and we hope to see you at future meetings.
Third,